Monday on Daily Delivery. Patrick Reusse joins me as always. Patrick, we got plenty of things to get to, as often happens this time of year, but I think we got to start with Gopher football, even though we'll get into some Timberwolves, maybe some Packers, some Gopher hockey talk, maybe at the end, some World Series talk, setting that up as well. But Gophers, Patrick, just a few weeks ago, got ranked. I think they came in at like number 21 when they were 4-0. People were starting to talk about, I don't know if you saw this, people were starting to talk about, like, can they get to not just win the Big Ten West, can they go to like the college football playoff? Like that was being discussed locally and nationally. Since then, 0-3, outscored 91-41 in 3 games, including, of course, Saturday's loss at Penn State, a blowout, one that was reasonably close, at least score-wise, at halftime, and then Penn State takes over. I think they outscored them 21-0 in the third quarter. Final 45-17. In the immortal lip reading of Aaron Rodgers, what are we doing out here? What's going on?
Well, let me say this. I'm being accused of jumping on the bandwagon and then them going 0-3. I jumped on the bandwagon 2 days before they kicked the living hell out of Michigan State in East Lansing. And the reason I did was because I had seen a team that I thought was going to go and kick the hell out of Michigan State.
Yeah.
And what has happened since then, I have no idea. But to me, Fleck is just so responsible for the pathetic performance Saturday. He starts his freshman quarterback. Penn State doesn't know anything about this kid. He's an athlete, and he does not let him try to do anything in the first half until the game is over. Until Penn State has taken control of the game, they won't let the kid do anything. They don't try to make any plays. What was wrong with him? That he is, once in a while, you'll think to really be ready and have a good game plan and go after a team like they should once in a while. But he coaches so scared so many times, it drives you crazy. And then all of a sudden you'll go for it on 4th at his own 28-yard line.
Right.
Some stupid thing like that. He is not a good in-game coach. Not every game is he an idiot, but he was an idiot Saturday. You got to turn this is not Siraka. This is him wanting to say, well, maybe we can go into Penn State and beat them 9-6 with this defense or something. What is wrong with him? What they got to let this kid try to make a play, don't they?
I would think so. Yeah.
And finally, when it was 17-3, it could have been worse. By the way, they threw that great big 30-yard air ball that the wide receiver made the only good catch they made the whole game.
Right.
And then they ran down, and then they got that touchdown at the end of the half to kite them out of there. You come into the second half, and all of a sudden you got a little confidence in the quarterback, because he's finally done something on that last drive, and then bomb 3 and out, and they're and then their defense just collapsed against. I'm not a big Clifford fan, but you got to cover when the tight end's running right down the middle of the field. Maybe somebody should consider covering them and things like that. So yeah, it was pathetic, but it is one of the shocking collapses we've seen around here, right? I mean, we've seen a lot of collapses from Gopher football teams, but certainly not one. Winning the West after they won at Michigan State seemed almost inevitable. My goodness.
Yeah.
Illinois Iowa's terrible.
Yes.
Wisconsin's terrible.
Right.
Nebraska has been terrible. It was sitting there, and now this. They better watch out. Greg Schiano, who can coach, is coming in with Rutgers. They might lose at home to Rutgers, these guys. Rutgers is not good, but they're not as bad as they normally are. I mean, it's pretty much incredible the way they've falling on their face. It is funny. I love the Gopher holders. There's a few people saying, boy, flex jobs, flex jobs and stake now and stuff like that. No, it's not.
No.
But the good thing about this is you don't have to give them a raise after this season. You thought you were going to have to, right?
Right.
Boy, halfway through, you were saying they're going to have to give them $8 million. They're going to have to tear up the contract. They're going to have to do this and that. And he's one more loss from getting the vote of confidence, don't you think, from the athletic director? Although Coyle wouldn't do that because he never speaks. So,
doesn't talk in season.
I don't know how. I don't know where this came from, but it's pretty phenomenal. And here's the deal. I don't know. Rutgers, is that homecoming game?
That's here, yeah.
We already had homecoming.
We've
already had homecoming, right?
They lost homecoming, right? That was what started all this.
Yeah, without homecoming, I bet they don't have 40,000 people there. In reality, they'll announce more than that Saturday, though.
The buzz is gone. That's for sure. The buzz is gone. Way gone.
And the buzz and when you look around town, the only buzz now is the Vikings. So, that's as far as in with the pro teams. So, it's back. There was about 3 weeks there. You wondered, this is kind of like what Holtz came and the Gophers got a chance to take over the town.
Right.
And then the Vikings kept winning. And these guys, I don't know. Somebody's got to be smarter than me to explain to me how they can get beat this bad physically. Their offensive line, who they were kind of talking up as just as good as last year's, even though they lost 4 starters, is not moving anybody. I mean, Ibrahim got his 100 yards on 30 carries. It took him 30 carries to get 102 yards. So the big goal of the whole second half after it got out of hand was to make sure he got his 100 yards. And the defensive line is terrible. They just get moved all over the place. So it was pretty amazing because what I could not figure out all week how the point spread stayed at 4.5 or 5. How did it? They were 5-point underdogs.
I don't know.
What was that?
I don't know. I think people were still giving the Gophers a lot of credit for those first 4 weeks. And, the thing we got to remember is we kept saying, yeah, they haven't beaten anybody. And now Michigan State, in retrospect, wasn't all that good. They were probably overrated. So it's like they got to 4-0 and you almost just didn't want to trust your eyes. You didn't want to say, yeah, well, they still haven't beaten anybody. You wanted to just say, well, if you beat 4 teams, no matter how bad they are, and you beat them that badly, you must be pretty good. And it's some kind of combination of we overrated and overestimated what they were, and something. I mean, they just completely fell apart. Part of it's that for a game and a half, or part of last week and all of this week, they played without Tanner Morgan. But there's also the question of like, you've had 4 or 5 years of Tanner Morgan now. Can you develop another quarterback?
Right.
Can there be another guy that's ready to play? Why not Cole Kramer in that game? He's been running that Wildcat for a million years now. Well, I don't know. It's strange that the quarterback position is still so reliant on Tanner Morgan, who hasn't been all that great this year, especially as especially in these last few games.
He had a good year in 2019, right?
When he had two NFL draft picks to throw to.
Yeah.
Take a playcation to Mystic Lake. With 24/7 gaming, the good times never have to end. And you can satisfy your cravings at our restaurants and bars. Or relax in one of our luxurious hotel rooms. Those that play together, stay together. And don't forget to join Club M so you can spark new memories and bask in the rewards along the way. Follow the lights to Mystic Lake, where every day is play day.
Here's the Purdue game, though. You're 4-0. They come to town and you get 10 points against them.
Yes.
Since then, they gave up 37 to Nebraska, and then they got beat Saturday by Wisconsin, mauled by Wisconsin. How did you get 10 points against them at home? How did that happen? That's the one you got to look back at and say, okay, Illinois manhandled you physically, and Penn State was, just was better than you, but they should have been that much better if you would have actually covered the receivers. But I mean, how did that? That's the one that
Yeah.
is just unexplainable, and then it just started to this collapse. And now Iowa, I think we're probably going to rush the field when we beat Iowa right here because we haven't beat them in a long time because they're god awful. And but Wisconsin, Nebraska, they could lose at Nebraska, they could lose Wisconsin, they could they're going to be the Big Ten. What has deals with 8 or 9 bowl games? They're going to be getting one of the bottom picks the way it's going here. Wow.
I know from a point where you're looking at maybe a New Year's top 6 bowl, and yeah, you're right because. And that's what the optimists are still saying right now too. It's like, there's a lot of season left. Still can beat Iowa. Still can win these trophy games. Still can beat Wisconsin. It's like, yeah, that's nice. Like in a regular year, like if they had just gotten to 4-3 by kind of stumbling their way through. If they were 2-2 at one point, then they won a couple. Then maybe you could kind of look at the bright side. But when you start 4-0, when you look like you might be a team that could do something special, even if that wasn't the case, like even if we were overrating them, like you can't then change the narrative to say, well, boy, you could still win some trophies this year and it could still be a successful season. Like it's hard to, unless they win these last 5 and go 9-3 with a lot of nice wins, then the narrative changes again. But it's going to be hard to turn this narrative around from where it was to where it is now to get back to feeling like this was a successful season.
I think it's the first time they lost 3 in a row since 18. But here's a kind of the hidden factor here that makes you wonder. He came in, and the first year they had a terrible recruiting year because he was replacing Clays, and They weren't much okay. So then nationally, I looked it up again. They finished 38th nationally, 38th nationally, back to back. 29th in 2020. Their recruiting was for the 2021 season. They were 29th. They were like in the top 6 or 7 of the Big Ten.
And probably got a boost there off of the 19 season.
Yeah. Since then, 55th and 50th right now, and 14th in the Big Ten last year. Where'd that come from?
That's a good question.
55 and 55th nationally, 14th in the Big Ten. This year, right now, they're standing 50th and 10th in the Big Ten. And what happened? We got the new facility. We got the enthusiastic, beloved coach. We got the great atmosphere. How the hell did they fall off the map recruiting wise? I don't get it.
I wonder if.
They had 4 4-stars 2 years ago, and they had 2 last year, and they got 1 this year. And it's weird, man. It's what has happened recruiting wise, and they're not playing any of those kids now because they're playing grandpas and
doctors,
uncles, and everything else. But it kind of makes you wonder who's that was supposed to be his deal, right? He was supposed to be a recruiting phenomenon, and that hasn't been happening lately. That's for sure.
I wonder if they were hurt in particular by, this is me talking out loud, I wonder if they were hurt in particular by not being able to do in-person recruiting. Just like I'm sure Fleck is better at that. I'm sure his message sells better when he's in person than when they lost some of that in-person time during the pandemic. I wonder if that explains at least some of it, but that should not explain all of it.
I don't know what it is, but it is to me when you look at it and say, okay, you'd think he was, you think he has this national impact, but he obviously doesn't. So anyway, it's a puzzle how this occurred, though, how they got so, Abraham missed 1 game, but I don't know. This has caught me completely by surprise, but after watching, we've had a few of these. I mean, Mace's biggest victory ever, was at Penn State, right? When they were very highly rated. Was that his biggest one? I think they turned around and lost to Indiana.
They did. Yeah, they sure did.
this has been kind of a tradition, that's for sure.
Yes.
But Mason at about this point in his career here was like he'd had about 3-4 pretty good years in a row, and then it went in the tank, and they couldn't play defense anymore. And I think when you watch this team, you play defense right now, you say, "Yeah, are we on the same trajectory here? What's the deal? How come they can't? How come they can't defend? I don't know. It's a when you're very spotty, when you can't pass offensively and you can't stop the pass defensively, that's an issue.
Yeah,
so
that's a problem.
I don't know.
Well, you mentioned this becoming a Vikings town again. They didn't play obviously this weekend, but they still managed to gain ground. Let's talk quick about Packers losing to the Washington Commanders. You just assumed that the Packers would get their act together, win that game, and they were in fact ahead, I think 14-3 in that game at one point, and then everything kind of falls apart. They lose 23-21. Washington had been up 23-14, and then Green Bay got a late touchdown, actually had the ball in desperation time. And again, like I think the second game in a row ends with Rodgers on the turf after trying this, kind of the whole lateral play, and he winds up with the ball again and just gets flattened, and that's the end of the game. But he's trying to tell everybody, not his relax speech again, but what did he say? He's
okay.
We're going to be okay. He can still make the playoffs, stuff like that. Like, I don't know about that, Aaron. He said, I'm not worried. That was his message.
Beat you 42-6.
No, he said maybe that's the best thing for him. Patrick said this week, nobody's going to give us a chance going to Buffalo on Sunday Football. Shoot, that might be the best thing for us. I don't know about that.
He's just babbling, but he came back. I said it from day one.
You were right. You nailed it.
I don't think they're going to be this bad, but I said he came back for the money. He didn't. The fact that Devontae, I thought when he signed, it was part of a package that guaranteed Devontae Adams would be coming back. It did not, then they just let him go. And when he had to pass on, he had to know that when he signed that they weren't going to keep him. So he just came back from the money. And now those dummies, they got sick. They got the guy that they drafted number one. I mean, in the first round, not number one, Jordan Love. He's going to leave there without ever having played, right?
It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably not going to pick up his option, right? So he's going to be there. He's going to be there 4 years, never played. I would guess that Brian Gutekunst is going to take the fall for this, wouldn't you? And because he's more likely to get fired than LaFleur is with LaFleur's record. Although I don't know, Wisconsin fires guys like that over there now. So what the hell?
Right.
Maybe he'll get fired too. But it is funny. I mean, they've had. Favre started playing well in 94, was it?
92, I think. 92.
Was it 92? So it's basically 30 years.
Yeah.
They've had a few slip-ups, but 30 years of excellent quarterbacking. Rodgers got hurt and missed a year, but missed quite a bit of a year when Anthony Barr hurt him here. But,
2017,
But, 30 years, and they've been spoiled over there. I got news for you. This is a train wreck now. This looks like, didn't they pop back and go 3-13 or something one year? Didn't they have a terrible year with Favre? And then they came back and, he might have gotten hurt.
He never got hurt. They had one awful year. It was like 2001, maybe.
And it looked like it was over, and then they came back and, were pretty good. But yeah, this has been going on a long time. And it's Viking fans. Viking fans feel even better about the Vikings being 5-1 when they look across and see the Packer train wreck that's finally occurred. Now, those of us who are old, of course, remember their 20 years when they didn't make the playoffs, so didn't have a winning season for 20 years. So this is not a first for us. And I've always said this vicious Packers-Vikings rivalry basically didn't really start till 94 with 92 or 3 when Favre made them good again. And then the Vikings were pretty good with Denny. So that's when it started. But there were 20 years there where we didn't spend that much time worrying about the Packers. So anyway.
No, that's true. No, I think the season you were referring to, I was just looking it up quick. They went, so they had made the playoffs 4 years in a row with Favre from 2001 to 2004. Then they went 4-12 in 2005. Then they were 8-8 in 2006. Then 13-3 in 2007. And after that, they moved on from Favre and went to the Aaron Rodgers era, which was quite good for, they made playoffs 8 years in a row, won a Super Bowl in there. But
two home field losses in the NFC title game, though, the last 2 years. That was the big opportunity, and
right
and with what they're paying him and the way he's playing, they can't get rid of him. They can't move him this offseason. Nobody will take him, I don't think. Not at that price.
Yeah, and it was just like, no, and like I said when I was kind of joking about it, but the body language has been bad all year. But he was caught on camera multiple times. I was watching the second half of that game multiple times, just frustrated, saying, "What are we doing? What are we even doing?" Lip reading is very easy. One of them, I think there was an expletive thrown into one of them. Like, he's just like, I don't know if he's upset at what the receivers are doing, what kind of plays are being run. I don't know what the problem was, but when you get caught doing that, that's I don't know.
They let Devontae Adams go, and then
they traded him.
Yeah, they traded him, but then this Shanley, whatever the guy, the hyphenated name guy.
Oh yeah.
He could drive you crazy by dropping passes, but why'd they let him go?
Yeah,
he's in Kansas City. He can't be making any money. Why do they? This collection of wide receivers is a disgrace.
Yeah.
It's and then the guy they take the plunge on is God help him, some wide receiver from North Dakota State. They throw 50 passes a year up there, for goodness sakes. They're a running team, and with Trey Lance, he didn't play enough to know, and Wentz threw some, but how can you? Okay, here's our gift to you, Christian Watson from North Dakota State.
Right.
What a mess they have over there, and our fellas look like geniuses by comparison. Look at it. How are the Vikings not going to own this division for about 4 years? Right? The Bears are terrible.
Bears are terrible,
and the Lions came back and played their hearts out again. I watched 2 plays of the Lions game. They ran it. I clicked over. I hadn't been watching much TV. I clicked over. They threw this nice little tight end screen, right, about 20 yards down to the one. They could have reviewed it to see if he actually scored. They didn't. They handed the ball to Jamal Williams, the guy who used to be with the Packers.
Yeah.
And he lost a fumble for the first time in his 6-year NFL career at the 1 yard line. And the Lions that was the Lions. That was the Lions Sunday. And after that, they just disappeared and got their rear end kicked. But they're just a train wreck. And the Bears are as bad as they've been ever in the last 15 years. They're always bad, but they popped up a couple of times, and when they had Lovey's defense and won a couple of games. But this division is, people make fun of the AL Central. This division is just as bad, that's for sure.
It is bad. We don't need to talk about the Wild too much, but that's been pretty bad so far. The Wolves been a little spotty, but I think they got the kind of win they needed yesterday.
They got Edwards going yesterday.
They got Edwards going. They got, a comfortable win against one of these bad teams. They've been, I don't think Utah is all that bad. So maybe that loss doesn't look all that bad anyway,
loss.
But
I was there. That was a bad loss, man. They came out and played. The most telling guy, I went in and grabbed the defensive player we had, like Vanderbilt, after the game. And he said, I said, 41 points in the first quarter. They look great. Russell was running it, and making little jumpers and feeding guys, and beating them down the court. And I said, what happened? And he said, all we had to do is get back on defense because they can't beat us. They can't score on us in their set offense. And, it was late at night and you couldn't expand on that. But that sounds to me like what the word's going to be on this team on the league, that they still, at least to start this season, they can't figure out what they're doing when the ball slows down and they're not, their ball movement in that game was terrible. And after the first quarter, and that was a bad loss because that team is not as terrible as we thought, but, Gobert gets 23 rebounds and you get beat.
Right.
And the overtime of that game was disgusting.
Yes.
Because Russell and Towns just played a 2-man game and eliminated. Edwards never got a shot. Noel was on the bench, never got off the bench. I don't know. Finchie, I don't know about Finchie. What you're going to, you sit there and watch that train wreck for 5 minutes and don't substitute, don't do anything. And then you say, well, the ball got sticky. I'm sick of hearing about the ball getting sticky.
Right.
Whose job is it to keep the ball from getting sticky? To come up with something to prevent sticky. Okay,
let the ball do the work. Maybe let the coach do the work too.
Yeah, he's an interesting cat. Before the game, he does a little press conference, his pregame press conference. He seems coherent and everything's fine. After the game, man, he's got like 28 things going through his head. You can see that when he's trying to answer questions, he's still trying to figure out what went right. He's got like 3 things going on in his head. But I don't know. What do you think? Even last night, they go out and they just blow their doors off in the first quarter again. And by the second half, the end of the third quarter, they're 3 ahead for a while there. So something's happening at halftime with this team, and it ain't good. I don't know what it is, but
I think the big thing is these teams that they're playing against, at least initially, Wolves have to figure out how they're going to defend teams when they go small.
Yes,
that's how Utah killed them in that fourth quarter and overtime. Is like if you've got Gobert and Towns on the court at the same time, and they thought this was going to be how teams attacked them, especially in closing situations. How do you keep teams from just raining down open threes when you get the drive and kick game going? Because Towns is just not used to defending that way. And Gobert has always been a bit of a liability in kind of that, what do they call it? The 4-out offense where you get everybody kind of standing in the corners. And he's a great rim protector, but he's not going to chase.
He's not a pick and roll defender. Yeah, that's for sure. But that's right. They shot 53s, that team, and Clarkson made 7.
Right.
And
they made 20 of them.
Yeah, they did make 20, but they were wide open.
Yes,
too.
That's the problem.
You know what? They were also wide open in the opener for Oklahoma City. They just didn't make them. No, I didn't lock in last night. I missed some of the game, and I don't know if they defended a little better or not. But you're right. It's probably a bigger problem offensively. Defensively figuring out how to play these guys together than offensively. I think you just made a good point there. So. I did have this thought though, Mike.
Okay.
What if this doesn't work?
Uh-huh.
What if this doesn't work? And what if you end up giving away the 18th overall pick, and then the 10th overall pick, and then the 8th overall pick, and then the 5th overall pick by the time it's over? What if this doesn't work?
I think even if it doesn't work, it won't be broken to the degree that you're talking about. I think it'll be broken to the degree of I think even if this doesn't quote unquote work, this is probably still a playoff team or at least a play-in team. I think their floor is pretty high with this group because they have enough players, they have enough depth, they have enough really good players to withstand an injury or two, a minor injury or two, things along the way. I have a hard time imagining them losing, to the degree where they'd be giving away lottery picks. But you're right. Like if I'm wrong about that, this could be a complete disaster because then you've given away, Walker Kessler, who looks like he might be all right, and then all these other future picks. And I'm sure I'm sure they're conceding that the 2029 pick could be pretty good at some point, but they're probably banking on 23, 25, and 27. I think was the other ones they're giving up, not being so hurtful.
Yeah, and even even by their standards, it would be disaster if it doesn't work.
Yes.
But what I think the key is, in the opener, Edwards went 4 for 17. In the second game, they ignored him. So getting him saying, okay, here's the question to me, though. If Edwards is going to go get 30 and get all those shots and look as good as he did last night, how's Cat going to take getting 15 and being the complimentary
facilitator,
being the second guy? I mean, he's going to do that in October. He'll be fine. But when they're naming the All-Star team and he isn't even mentioned as a possibility, there's a massive raging ego in that guy. And but they need Edwards to be great for them to meet their expectations. And Cat being, I don't know. He's it's going to be interesting to see how he handles this, to say the least. How about the way he came out, though, for the fourth quarter with 4 bench guys and Edwards was kind of interesting. What was the message there?
I don't know.
Fourth quarter, but they played great. So I'm glad to see that they had Naz Reid sit the whole first game.
They did, yeah.
Dude, he's going to, between Gobert and Towns, they're going to miss 30 games in some form, right? Somebody's going to do something. They can't just write him off, and not play him. So I don't know. Yeah, there's talent here, but damn, make one of these easy. Okay, 3. Don't be fighting for your lives against the Thunder twice.
Right.
Come on, because the Thunder's goal is to go 18 and 64. That's what they're trying to accomplish, So.
Yes, they even sat Gilgeous-Alexander last night, so they're already.
It's bad. It's a bad time to be playing these teams, though, because they don't know. Like said, bad time to be playing San Antonio here 3 times in the next 4 games too, because they don't know how bad they are yet either.
Right.
You like to play them in the 2 months into the season when they know they stink,
or at the very end when they know exactly what they're playing for draft position. Because then it's then it's pretty obvious. They're like, did not play their best 7 guys, toe injury, a fingernail, all the BS injury reports that come out. Well,
but they're interesting. That's one thing. I mean, this guy Gobert is as advertised, man. What do you have? He's got, how many rebounds has he got? Like 50, right? In 3 games?
He gets a lot. He's all over the boards. I mean, that's at least the one thing they probably wouldn't have to worry about if they got to go against Memphis again in the playoffs. They wouldn't get killed on the offensive glass again like they did last series, because that was the big thing. And whether that's a little bit of an overreaction to one series, that was kind of a problem all year last year. They were like 28th in defensive rebounding, so they needed to get bigger.
And the frittering away leads was
that was a problem too.
I mean, that's an NBA thing.
Yes.
That's an NBA thing, but it shouldn't become your team trademark.
Yes.
You're in trouble. There's nothing wrong with winning an easy one against a bad team.
No. Well, really quick, Patrick. Sunday was kind of an unofficial holiday for Minnesota fans, because not only did the Packers lose, but the Yankees eliminated.
Yes.
They're the two big evil teams, both with crushing losses on Sunday. So we're getting that World Series pretty sad.
Yeah, Houston ends up sweeping them. Came back, and Yankees helped give them 2 runs with Torres made a bad play, and Houston without really swinging the bats until yesterday, ends up sweeping them. Houston hasn't lost yet in the postseason ever since Seattle frittered away that game 1 against them and looked like they could add him in some trouble. But it's going to be easy. I know a lot of people still are mad about the garbage cans, but I'd like to see Dusty get a win. And Philadelphia, there's some people complaining. I saw some people complaining about Philadelphia's 6th best record, 87 wins. Same number the Twins had, by the way, right? No, we had 5, right? 85.
85 and 77 that year.
Right. Yeah. Well, here's my theory. Okay, I'm not a big fan of this, but as long as they stay at 6, I can handle it because of 2 buys. But how come this is a bad mark for baseball? When a 6th place team makes the Stanley Cup Finals, we celebrate them.
Right.
I mean,
great underdog story.
What's wrong with upsets? What's wrong
Right.
with upsets? I mean, that's what they've set up a system now. Listen, TV money's tied to the playoffs. Even if they don't get big ratings, the regular season games nationally get no ratings. So TV wants playoffs. You're going to give them playoffs. This is the new system. 6 teams going into the playoffs. Numerically, it works. And people are saying, well, they took 5 days off. They're rusty or something. Well, yeah, invite them to. So tell the number 1 seed, would you rather play this 3-game series or would you rather have the time off? You got your choice, right? So anyway, it's it's what we got, and Philadelphia just played great. What can you do? Bryce Harper decided to become the Bryce Harper he was supposed to be 8 years ago. And that ball he hit yesterday to win that game was phenomenal on a rainy, lousy, sloppy day in Philadelphia.
Right.
And then Houston wins, and now we sit around and wait till Friday for the World Series. But I don't have any problem with it. Philadelphia and Houston probably won't do big ratings, but who cares? This is how it turned out, and it's fine. So one really hot team and one team that's won 106 games. So I don't have any problem with either of it. And the Reusse jinx did not occur because I wrote about Ryan Presley I wrote a column about Ryan Presley, and he saved the game last night. He did not fritter it away, and his life has improved a little since I was talking to him in a parking lot down there in 2017, and he had a used truck and was a single guy, and now he's had 2 kids with a famous former Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, Cat Rogers, and he's got a $30 million 2-year contract. So he's really a good guy, and he's easy to root for if you know him and where he's come from, where he always had the good stuff, but he was spotty with the Twins. He'd have those down stretches, and then he'd be pretty good. And meanwhile, we ended up with Alcala and Celestino. The Twins ended up with him for him. And right now it's not an even trade, but these guys wouldn't pay $30 million for a relief pitcher. We know that. So anyway.
No, they wouldn't. They don't shop at the bullpen Dior store generally.
They don't. They think you can just slap them together. But yeah, it's 2 towns. It is funny how you worry about baseball, but when one of your towns gets involved in it, we both know Terry Robbins, Arnie's wife, and Arnie, and she came up with the Homer Hanky, and basically, I've told her when I've seen her that she ruined postseason baseball because every one of these teams, you go to a postseason game, you have to stand up like an idiot and wave a towel instead of actually sit down and watch the damn ball game. As I used to scream at people at the Metrodome, sit down and watch the ball game, you morons. And if somebody does something, stand up and yell. Okay, baseball, this ain't football. Okay, sit down and watch the ball game. Nobody, they're all waving the towels. If you get to 2 strikes, you're getting beat 8-2 in the 5th, and you get to 2 strikes, you got to stand up and wave your towel. What's wrong with you morons? It's baseball. Watch a tape of the 1965 World Series. Those people knew how to behave. They sat and watched the game. And then if something happened, they applauded robustly. Okay, that's baseball. Let's stop waving towels. Sit down.
Would not be the end of a Monday daily delivery without a get off my lawn rant from you, Patrick. But I think we've reached the end of our show. For those of you wanting more wild talk, Sarah McClellan will join me on Tuesday's show to break down what's going on with that team. Only one victory so far this season, which is a problem.
I got one more little rant.
Do it.
We had to read all about the glory days of the WCHA again because North Dakota was in town. Shut up. You also had very mediocre towns teams coming. It's fine to play a 2-game series with North Dakota, but each time we don't have to get a lecture about what the WCHA used to be. When it was an 8-team league, okay. When it became a 12-team league, Bemidji, God love Bemidji. Bemidji's coming to town. Really? I don't know about you. I'd rather have Notre Dame come to town or Michigan come to town. Shut up about the old WCHA. 2 rants for the price of 1.
Yes.
Today, Mike.
And I'm probably guilty of the WCHA was the best nostalgia. So I will think on what you just said.
The regular season crowds were fading while the WCHA still existed. Okay, so
okay.
Yes, all right.
Thanks, Patrick. Bye-bye.
See you later.